हेलो दोस्तों, लिटरेचर की सीरीज में आपका स्वागत है। आज हम पढ़ेंगे एज ऑफ शेक्सपियर के पार्ट 2। इसमें हम पढ़ेंगे शेक्सपियर का कंप्लीट लाइफ के बारे में, उनके और इम्पोर्टेंट वर्क्स, उनको समझेंगे क्रोनोलॉजिकली कब कौन से वर्क्स आए थे। उसके बाद थोड़ा पोस्ट शेक्सपियरियन ड्रामा के बारे में पढ़ेंगे। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं विलियम शेक्सपियर को। इनका जन्म हुआ था 1564 में और 1616 में ये एक्सपायर हो गए थे। जन्म हुआ था इनका स्ट्रैटफोर्ड ऑन एवन, जो कि वैक्शायर में है। In his 19th year, he married Anne Hathaway, a woman 8 years his senior, the daughter of a well-to-do yeoman of the neighboring village of Shottery. He had 3 children, Susan, Judith, and Hamlet. Few years after his marriage, roughly in about 1587, he left his native town to seek his fortunes in London. At the time, the drama was gaining rapidly in popularity through the works of the university wits. जिन लोगों को यूनिवर्सिटी विट्स के बारे में नहीं पता है वो हमारी प्रीवियस वीडियो को देखें, आपको सब अच्छे से समझ में आ जाएगा। Shakespeare soon turned to the stage and became first an actor and then a playwright. An ill-natured reference to him in a pamphlet written by Greene on his deathbed shows that in 1592 he was well known as a successful author. He became a shareholder in 2 of the leading theatres of the time, the Globe and the Blackfriars. Shakespeare's biography proves conclusive that, like Chaucer, he was no dreamer but a practical man of affairs. He reached London poor and friendless, but he left it rich and respected. Much light is thus thrown not only upon his personal character but also upon his writings. Of the learnings which is shown in his plays and about which so much has been written, it is enough here to say that it is not the learning of the trained and accurate scholar of a Bacon or a Ben Jonson, but rather the wide miscellaneous knowledge of many things, which was naturally accumulated by an extraordinary assimilative mind during years of contact with men and books at a time when all social intercourses and all literature were like saturated with the classicism of the Renaissance. अब हम पढ़ते हैं शेक्सपियर के वर्क्स के बारे में। शेक्सपियर्स नॉन ड्रामेटिक पोएट्री कंसिस्ट्स ऑफ 2 narrative poems, Venus and Adonis or Lucrece, in both of which the classicism of the age is very marked, and a sequence of 154 sonnets, the first 126 addressed to a man, the remainder addressed or referring to a woman. The commonly accepted canon of Shakespeare's dramatic work comprises of 37 plays, though the authenticity of several of these is doubtful, and in some cases at least, it is clear that his part in the drama attributed to him was limited to the retouching of older material. His activity as a writer for the stage extended over some 24 years. Beginning from 1588 and ending in about 1611. Shakespeare's critics have agreed to subdivide these 24 years into 4 periods. अब तक जिन लोगों ने हमें इंस्टाग्राम पे फॉलो नहीं किया है वो प्लीज कर लीजिए, आपको वोकैबुलरी सीखने को मिलेगी और इम्पोर्टेंट चीजें मिलेंगी नेट के रिगार्डिंग। दो फर्स्ट पीरियड जो कि 1588 से 1596 तक माना जाता है, इसे पीरियड ऑफ अर्ली एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन भी बोला जाता है। मतलब इस दौरान काफी एक्सपेरिमेंटेशनल वर्क कर रहे थे। कौन? शेक्सपियर। शेक्सपियर्स अप्रेंटिसशिप begins with the revision of old plays such as the 3 plays of Henry VI, Titus Andronicus. To this period belong his first comedies, in which the influence of Lily is pronounced. Love's Labour's Lost, The 2 Gentlemen of Verona, The Comedy of Errors, A Midsummer Night's Dream, his first effort in chronicle drama, a single, very youthful tragedy, Romeo and Juliet. The work of this period as a whole is extremely light in texture. There is little depth of thought and characterization. The art is markedly immature. Prominence of rhyme in the dialogue, the stiffness of the blank verse, and the constant use of puns and other affectations are among its outstanding technical features. अब इस एज के जो इम्पोर्टेंट वर्क्स हैं वो आपके सामने मेंशन हैं, जैसे द कॉमेडी ऑफ एरर्स, द टू जेंटलमैन ऑफ वेरोना, मिडसमर नाइट्स ड्रीम, रोमियो एंड जूलियट, रेप ऑफ लुक्रीस एंड वीनस एंड एडोनिस। अब हम आते हैं सेकंड पीरियड पे, जो कि 1596 से 1600 तक का है। दिस इज द पीरियड ऑफ ग्रेट कॉमेडीज एंड क्रॉनिकल प्लेस। अब कुछ प्रोमिनेंट वर्क्स हैं इस पीरियड के, जैसे द मर्चेंट ऑफ वेनिस, टेमिंग ऑफ द श्रू, द मैरी वाइफ्स ऑफ विंडसर, मच एडो अबाउट नथिंग, एज यू लाइक इट, द ट्वेल्थ नाइट, और हेनरी IV के पार्ट्स 1 and 2 और हेनरी V। Shakespeare wrote great comedies and chronicle plays throughout this period. His works became independent. It is far more massive in quality, the knowledge of the world and of the motives and passions of men, which it everywhere exhibits, is infinitely more profound. The youthful crudeness, extravagance, and strain are disappearing. Rhyme is largely abandoned for prose and blank verse. The blank verse itself has lost its stiffness and is free and flexible. अब हम आते हैं इनके थर्ड पीरियड पर, जो कि 1601 से 1608 तक चला। This was the period of great tragedies. इसी पीरियड में शेक्सपियर ने अपनी पावर्स को खुल के एक्सप्रेस किया। उनकी क्या पावर्स थी? His dramatic power, intellectual power, the power of expressions. This is the time of his supreme masterpieces. His attention is preoccupied to the total exclusion of all other things. With the darker side of human experience, and his plays are made out of those destructive passions which shake the foundations of the moral order and bring upon innocent and guilty alike. अब इस पीरियड के कुछ इम्पोर्टेंट वर्क्स देख लेते हैं हम, जो कि हैं हैमलेट, मैकबेथ, किंग लियर, ओथेलो, जूलियस सीजर, ऑल्स वेल दैट एंड्स वेल, मेजर फॉर मेजर, ट्रोलस एंड क्रेसिडा। अब ये सभी वर्क्स नेट के लिए भी बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है, तो इनको आप थोड़ा सा पढ़ लेना, इनके कैरेक्टर्स, इनकी स्टोरी को याद रखना। ठीक है बच्चों। अब हम आते हैं अपने फोर्थ पीरियड पे, जो कि 1608 से 1613 तक चला। दिस पीरियड वॉज द रिवेकनिंग ऑफ फर्स्ट लव रोमांसेस। इसी पीरियड में शेक्सपियर ने पहली बार जो फर्स्ट लव रोमांस होता है, जो अपने ड्रामा है जैसे एंटनी एंड क्लियोपैट्रा, क्रियोलिनस, इन सब में शो किया था। अब इम्पोर्टेंट जो ड्रामास थे वो देख लेते हैं। टिमोन ऑफ एथेंस, हेनरी VIII, पेरिकल्स, सिम्बलिन, द टेम्पेस्ट, द विंटर्स टेल। तो चलिए दोस्तों, अब हम कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स देखते हैं शेक्सपियर के राइटिंग के। He was the first to write romantic comedies in English drama. अब जो इनकी कॉमेडीज थी ना, उनको हम पढ़ेंगे, उनके एलिमेंट्स देखेंगे, क्या विशेषताएं थी उनकी। सबसे पहले आता है हमारा रोमांटिक एलिमेंट। शेक्सपियर कॉमेडी इज रोमांटिक। The settings are all imaginative. Actions take place in some remote, far-off land and not in the familiar English surrounding. Next is realism and romance. What distinguishes Shakespearean comedy is the fine and artistic blending of romance and realism. All his comedies are related to real life. His characters are real. अब कुछ इनके जो फेमस वर्क्स हैं जिनमें हमें ये देखने को मिला है, वो है एज यू लाइक इट, ट्वेल्थ नाइट, अ मिडसमर नाइट्स ड्रीम। इसके बाद आता है हमारा लव इन शेक्सपियरियन कॉमेडी। रोमांटिक कॉमेडी इज मेनली अ कॉमेडी ऑफ लव एंडिंग विद द रिंगिंग ऑफ मैरिज बेल्स। The entire atmosphere in Shakespearean comedy is surcharged with love. Not only are the hero and heroine in love, but everyone is in love. अब इसके भी कुछ प्रोमिनेंट एग्जांपल्स हैं, ट्वेल्थ नाइट, एज यू लाइक इट। अब हम आते हैं शेक्सपियर की हीरोइंस के ऊपर। Heroines in Shakespearean comedy play leading role and surpass their male counterparts. These ladies are not only heroines in the material and formal sense that they have most of the scenes in the play. They are heroines in the sense that they provide the efficient force and which resolves the dilemma of the play into happiness. His heroines, Rosalinda, Portia, Viola, Beatrice, are endowed with wit, humanized common sense, humane feelings, and noble qualities of head and heart. Next is disguise. The use of the dramatic device of disguise is common in all of the comedies of Shakespeare. In The Two Gentlemen of Verona, Julia, disguised as a boy, is employed by a man she loves, as Viola is employed by Orisino. In The Merchant of Venice, Jessica disguises herself in the lovely garnish of a boy. For women to disguise themselves as boys may have been suggested by the fact that there were no actresses on the Elizabethan stage. In disguise, the boy actors could easily and naturally play female roles. And also, the disguise enabled Shakespeare to symbolize one of his favorite themes, the contrast between appearance and रियलिटी। अब आगे बढ़ने से पहले दोस्तों, अब तक जिन लोगों ने चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया है, एक बार वो सब्सक्राइब बटन को क्लिक कर दीजिए और लाइक जरूर कर देना वीडियो को, और अपने उन दोस्तों के साथ शेयर करना जो नेट के लिए पढ़ रहे हैं, तैयारी कर रहे हैं। अब आगे बढ़ते हैं हम और आते हैं ह्यूमर के ऊपर। ह्यूमर इज द सोल ऑफ शेक्सपियरियन कॉमेडी। इट इज फुल ऑफ सिंपैथेटिक, काइंडली एंड ह्यूमन लाफ्टर। शेक्सपियर विट lacks malice and his mockery has no bite. Brilliant wit mingles with kindly mirth and genial humor. Wit comes from the head, humor from the heart. Shakespeare's wit, while it ranges from wordplay to wisdom, is not only astounding, it is also healthy and joyous. Shakespeare's humor is many-sided. He can employ different kinds of humor with equal ease and equal command. अब next है music and song. Since music is the food of love, Shakespearean comedy is intensely full of music and songs. His Twelfth Night opens with a note of music which strikes the keynote of the play. Several exquisite and romantic songs are scattered all over: A Midnight Summer's Dream, Twelfth Night, As You Like It, and मच एडो अबाउट नथिंग। दोस्तों, आप हमें इंस्टाग्राम पे भी जरूर फॉलो करें। अब वहां तक जाने के लिए आप इस कोड को स्कैन कर लीजिए, आप डायरेक्ट हमारे पेज पर पहुंच जाएंगे और फॉलो बटन को क्लिक कर देना। अब हम देखते हैं शेक्सपियरियन ट्रेजेडी के क्या कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स थे। मेनली शेक्सपियरियन ट्रेजेडी इज रोमांटिक एंड नॉट क्लासिकल। इट ऑब्जर्व्स इन स्पाइट ऑफ important differences of technique the fundamental requirements of tragedy as expounded by Aristotle in the Poetics. Moreover, Shakespeare's tragedies are also cathartic, that is, they have the power of purging and thus easing us of some of the pain and sufferings which are the lot of us all in this world. अब हम इनके characteristics देखते हैं। First is tragic hero. Shakespearean tragedy is preeminently the story of one person, the hero or protagonist. In the love tragedies, Romeo and Juliet, Antony and Cleopatra, the heroine is as much the center of attraction as the hero. The rest of the tragedies deal only with the rise and fall of the hero. The Shakespearean tragedy deals with the rise and fall of the protagonist, ultimately resulting in his death. The story also depicts the troubled part of the hero's life, which proceeds and leads up to his death. The hero is not merely smart under his exceptional sufferings, but actually dies as a result of them. The suffering and calamity are, as a rule, unexpected and contrasted with the previous happiness of the hero. नेक्स्ट हम आते हैं हम फेट एंड कैरेक्टर के ऊपर. द डीड्स ऑफ द प्रोटैगनिस्ट आर ऑफ ग्रेट इंपॉर्टेंस एज दे लीड टू हिज ट्रेजिक एंड. But to call Shakespearean tragedy the story of human character is not the entire truth. His tragedies, as Nicole points out, are tragedies of character and destiny. There is a tragic relationship between the hero and his environment. Bradley also points out that with Shakespeare, character is destiny. It is an exaggeration of a viral truth. The essence of Shakespearean tragedy, therefore, is the fate presents a problem which alone is difficult for a particular hero at a time when he is least fitted to tackle it. Next is supernatural element. The supernatural agency plays a vital role in Shakespearean tragedy. It influences the thoughts of the hero and thus indirectly influences his deeds. The supernatural is placed in closest relation with character and does definitely contribute to the action. Ghosts and witches were believed to be far more real than they are today, as in most cases in the tragedies of Shakespeare, they cannot be explained away as illusion in the minds of character. Now we'll study about the historical plays of Shakespeare with its characteristics. The historical plays were immensely popular for the Elizabethan audience, who were intensely patriotic and very proud of the achievements of their ancestors on foreign fields. अब इनके हम कुछ characteristics देखते हैं. First is sources. For the raw material of his historical plays, Shakespeare was indebted to the old chronicles of Hall, Stowe, and Holinshed, and most of all to the last. These chronicles had themselves an eye for dramatic effect, but in Shakespeare's hands, history became thoroughly dramatized. He cared more for the dramatic and imaginative truth than the historical fact. He very boldly deviated from history whenever this seemed to suit his dramatic purpose. Shakespeare's concept of history, as John Bailey says, is more royal than national and more personal than political. The next characteristic now is patriotism. Shakespeare's historical plays are suffused with the spirit of patriotism. The aim of historical plays was to make Englishmen more patriotic and to make Englishmen proud of being Englishmen. The worship and glorification of the king is a powerful manifestation of patriotism in Shakespeare's historical plays. Kingship is strongly idealized to divine proportions. Now we'll study about the characteristics of Shakespeare's last plays, या dramatic romances. His last plays, known as dramatic romances, form a class apart. His last four plays, Pericles, Cymbeline, The Winter's Tale, and The Tempest, are neither comedies nor tragedies. All of them end happily. They have a lot in common, and it is appropriate to call them dramatic romance or tragicomedies. They contain incidents which are undoubtedly tragic, but their end is happy. Shakespeare was distinctly influenced by Beaumont and Fletcher in writing these dramatic romances. अब हम इनके कुछ characteristics देखते हैं. First is the tragicomic note. The last plays of Shakespeare are the transitions from Tempest with its lightnings and thundering to a white illuminated calm. These plays are marked by unending optimism. The tyrannical father, the stepmother, the devoted wife, the credulous lover, the loutish rival, the wanton maid of honor, the faithful servant, all play their parts. They belong to the formulate not to life, but of romance. These plays are rightly named tragicomedies because they have no concern with the undying pessimism of the tragedies. They are a mixture of good and bad, sorrow and joy, tears and smiles, pessimism and optimism, separation and union, but finally they are lighted with a ray of hope. Now the next is redemption, reconciliation and forgiveness. These plays breathe a spirit of philosophic calm, of a robust faith in the possibility of happiness and redemption of wrongdoers through love and forgiveness of the wrong. The purpose is to teach forgiveness of wrongs, not revenge from them. To give the sinner time to repent and amend, not to cut him off in his sins. These plays are all concerned with the knitting together of human bonds, the reunion of parted kindred, the forgiveness of enemies, and the atonement of wrong. Now, the next characteristic is a romantic atmosphere and supernaturalism. The last plays of Shakespeare are remarkable for the mellowed romantic atmosphere. His imagination knows no restraints and all sorts of impossibilities are conceived. Many absurdities creep into the plots. The beautiful scenes of the mountains and sea are particularly romantic. Next is symbolism. Last plays of Shakespeare, especially The Tempest, was rich in symbolism. Perdita and Miranda symbolize the fertility and continuity of nature. Caliban symbolizes brute nature force. He also represents the eternal slave as well as the dispossessed native. Next is style of the last plays. The style of these plays, says Relic, is a further development of the style of tragedies. The thought is often more packed and hurried, expressions more various and fluent, at the expense of full logical ordering. It seems that during the last years, thoughts came so fast to Shakespeare's mind that the pen could not keep pace with the rush of these thoughts. As an inevitable result, the construction of sentences became often involved and the meaning ambiguous. Next is songs, music and dance. Songs, music and dance abound in these plays. They contribute to enchantment and romance which distinguish these. तो दोस्तों अभी तक हमने शेक्सपियर की पूरी लाइफ को समझा, क्या अप्स एंड डाउन्स थे, वो कब अपने नेटिव प्लेस से शिफ्ट हुए, वापस आए, उस दौरान उन्होंने क्या क्या किया, कि जब वो अपने नेटिव प्लेस को छोड़ के गए थे तो उन्हें कोई नहीं जानता था, एकदम पुअर थे, पर वापस आने तक वो एक नाम कमा चुके थे और खूब सारा पैसा भी। अब हम इसके बाद पढ़ेंगे पोस्ट शेक्सपियरियन ड्रामा के बारे में। ये पीरियड था पर्टिकुलरली शेक्सपियर की डेथ से मिल्टन के आने तक। अब इस दौरान ड्रामा कैसा चला, किन्होंने चलाया, किसने क्या हेल्प करी, वो थोड़ा कुछ देख लेते हैं। ड्रामा इन द पोस्ट शेक्सपियरियन इंग्लैंड बिगेन टू डिक्लाइन एंड लॉस्ट इट्स अपील। क्यों? क्योंकि शेक्सपियर के लेवल को कोई मैच ही नहीं कर पा रहा था, इतना कोई एक्सप्रेसिव नहीं था, इतने कोई जो आर्टिकल्स होते हैं, जो क्राउड होता है, उसको ग्रैब नहीं कर पा रहा था। देयर वर नो पेपर्स और मैगजीन्स इन दोज डेज। पीपल केम टू द थिएटर नॉट ओनली टू बी अम्यूज्ड बट टू बी इन्फॉर्म्ड। शेक्सपियर catered to the needs of the people and gave them what they wanted. Everything changed with Shakespeare's successor. The audience itself had gradually changed, and in the place of plain people eager for a story and for information, we see a larger and larger proportions of those who went to play because they had nothing else to do. अब हम इनके कुछ characteristics देख लेते हैं, जैसे exhaustion of creative spirit, changed atmosphere, loss of national appeal, decline in technique and blank verse. अब नेक्स्ट वीडियो में हम पढ़ेंगे एक बड़े इंपॉर्टेंट राइटर बेन जॉनसन के बारे में, उनका क्या कंट्रीब्यूशन था पोस्ट शेक्सपियरियन ड्रामा जो था उसके अंदर, इंपॉर्टेंट प्लेस जो थे उनके वो पढ़ेंगे, उनके राइटिंग के जो कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स थे वो भी पढ़ेंगे हम। तो चलिए दोस्तों, मिलते हैं अपनी नेक्स्ट वीडियो में। तब तक चैनल को एक बार लाइक और सब्सक्राइब जरूर कर लें और वीडियो को अपने दोस्तों के साथ भी शेयर करें ताकि उन्हें भी इंफॉर्मेशन मिले, उनकी तैयारी अच्छी हो सके। Thank you guys.